Let's have a second salawat in honor of Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam. A third with your loudest voices in honor of Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. I expected the Nara Haidari in Muharram to be louder than this, so let's have a louder one. صل على محمد وآل محمد. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, all praise is due to the Lord, Master of all the worlds, and peace and blessings be on all his prophets, from Adam to Abraham to Moses to Jesus, and finally on the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his family. My respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is an absolute honor for each and every one of us here to stand in Manhattan. Many people don't realize how blessed we are to be standing here in Manhattan this afternoon. Manhattan is a place that has seen some of the greatest personalities of the 19th, 20th, and the 21st century. The reason that we are walking these streets is because the respect and the dignity of the people of Manhattan is a respect and dignity that allows people from all walks of life to come here, to talk, to express themselves. Never take for granted how fortunate we are to be in a non-Muslim country discussing the religion of Islam. Because first and foremost, a true Husseini thanks the police who are guarding us today, thanks the comptroller of Manhattan, thanks the mayor of Manhattan, thanks all of the American citizens who are here, who have allowed us to remember the grandson of the Prophet and what he stood for. Someone asked Imam al-Sadiq a question. They said to him, if I am a non-Muslim, if I am living in a Muslim country where I cannot practice my religion, can I move to a country of people who don't follow Islam? Imam al-Sadiq replied to him by saying, will you be able to protect our wilayat? He said to him, yes. He said, then go and live in that non-Muslim country, for Allah will raise you as an ummah like Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam. The first words we have to say in this Juloos is a thank you to Manhattan, and a thank you to everything that Manhattan stands for. There are Muslim countries in the world today where when we go on a Juloos, we don't know if it's our final Juloos. Whereas the non-Muslim seems to have learned more about Islam than the Muslims themselves. Today in Saudi Arabia, when I as a Muslim want to walk in a Juloos, I could end up dying. In Pakistan, I could end up dying. In Jordan, I could end up dying. Whereas in America, I'm able to walk in this Juloos and remember the grandson of Rasulullah. And for that, we should always be grateful to this country for allowing us that honor. Secondly, this Manhattan has also seen one of the most horrific incidents in human history. What happened on 9/11, I don't blame the people of Manhattan for wondering whether Islam is a barbaric religion. I don't blame the people of Manhattan if they think that Islam should be removed. If I was living in a country where every year I allowed you to have a Juloos, and you were allowed to come, and then one year you decide to fly planes into the Twin Towers. I can't blame the citizens of Park Avenue, the citizens of Madison, the citizens of Fifth, the citizens of Central Park West, Central Park South, Columbus, Broadway, going on to Gramercy, all these areas. I can't blame them, because when they see Islam, they wonder if that's the Islam, then Carson is right about Islam. Because at the moment, Carson and the likes, all those who are going for elections, they have a point. The Islam of 9/11 is Islam I don't want in my life. The Islam of Al-Qaeda is an Islam I don't want in my life. I don't blame the citizens of Manhattan, the borough of Manhattan, or New York City generally, for not wanting that Islam. But one thing I know about the people of Manhattan, those who are living in these condominiums, or in these cooperatives, or the police of Manhattan, who have been so honorable to stand with us today, one thing I know about them is that they respect any figure in history who stood up for justice. They respect people who stood up for honor. They respect people who stood up for dignity. They respect people of patience and forbearance. Because when you mention to them Mandela, everyone in Manhattan says we love Mandela, yes? Because when they hear about Mandela, they say, such a man who stood for the rights of the human being, that's the man the people of Manhattan love. When you mention Gandhi, the people of Manhattan will turn around and say, that's a great man, Gandhi. We want to learn about Gandhi. We want to honor Gandhi. We want to respect Gandhi. When you mention Martin Luther King, the people of Manhattan will respect and say that when Martin Luther King said, I have a dream, that dream was eventually realized. They have a respect for that person. I want to speak to the people of Manhattan, the borough of Manhattan. I want to speak to New York City generally, and I want all of you to speak in these terms as well. For 30 years, we built Imam Bargas in America. Now it's the second stage of our evolution, taking Ahlul Bayt to the public. I want to tell the people of Manhattan, you respect Mandela, I respect Mandela. And if you respect Luther King, I respect Luther King. And if you respect Gandhi, I have respect for Gandhi. But I want to tell you about a man who Gandhi said I learned from. Because everyone in New York will say, we've heard of Gandhi, but who's Gandhi's role model for him to achieve what he's achieved? Gandhi himself said, I learned how to achieve victory while oppressed through Hussein, son of Ali. Now look at the difference in the way we're talking about Imam al-Hussein. No wonder no more is Hussein just for Islam. Now when you talk in Manhattan, you talk of Hussein, you talk of Gandhi, you talk of Mandela, and you make it clear that, oh, people of Manhattan, I don't blame you for hating Islam or for wondering about Islam. I hate the Islam of ISIS.
No more, ISIS, no more.
I hate the Islam of Al-Qaeda. I hate the Islam of Boko Haram. I hate the Islam of the Shabab. But I want to present to you an Islam which relates to you. I want you to realize that you're not the only victims of terror. We are also victims of terror. And I want to show you Hussein's Islam in order that you are able to understand why 1,400 years ago one man has influenced 300 million people in the world today. The first principle of Imam al-Hussein, which you can give out to a non-Muslim, which he stood for, is not to say he's the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. Non-Muslims not interested. Who cares? It's not to do matam in front of them. Non-Muslim looks at you and says, okay, that's your ritual, but what's it to do with me? It's not to do, for example, with reciting poetry in our languages. Islam is not about languages. Rather, look at the humane traits of Hussein. Yes. In one day, one man taught us the whole meaning of life. Never in history, Luther King, Gandhi, Mandela, over 20 years, 15 years, 17 years, they taught man. Never could they say that in one day we taught man the whole meaning of life. Do you know what Imam al-Hussein did on the 10th of Muharram? He encapsulated the whole meaning of what it is to be humane. The first lesson Imam taught us on the 10th of Muharram, which I think everyone in Manhattan can refer to. Nobody treats animals as well as the people of Manhattan. You seen the way the dog is looked after here? There are some dogs who are going to inherit a will more than me and you will ever inherit. There's no animals treated like they are in Manhattan, because a human being never wants to see an animal thirsty. A human never wants to see an animal in pain. A human never wants to see an animal who is in danger. Look at our Muslim countries. Our disgraceful behavior with animals is not the message of Hussein. I see animals in our Muslim countries. When you look at these animals, you see some dogs which look anorexic and a cat that looks like it's gonna die. I mentioned to a group of people last week, Iraq is the only country I've ever seen where the dog runs away from the human being. Yes? Normally, you run away from the dog. But you find Imam al-Hussein's first humane principle that he taught was animal rights. Someone might turn around and say, why? You don't know how many non-Muslims, when you talk of animal rights with them, they feel a relation with you. Do you know when he went to that Furat, the Euphrates, on his final moments? He's thirsty. He's been thirsty for a few days. He's not had any water. He gets to the Euphrates. There is a wonderful moment of speaking for the rights of the animal. He's about to drink from the water. He sees his horse is thirsty. He cannot bear to see the horse thirsty. So as he's about to take the water, he says, oh horse, you drink the water first. At that moment, there was a wonderful Hussein. He was no longer the Muslim Hussein, the Shia Hussein, the Sunni Hussein. He was the Hussein of God on earth. Suddenly, Christ had become alive. Abraham was alive. Moses was alive. David was alive. Did not the Prophet Dawood said, a dog is man's best friend? And many of us forget this. And it comes to Hussein at that moment when he turns to the horse, Dul Janahu Maymun, and he says to him, oh horse, you drink the water first. We need to ask ourselves firstly, how many of us have built institutions in the name of Imam al-Hussein for the rights of animals in the world? Do you know how many animals in the world are being poached, are being killed? How many animals in the world are given no food, no drink? When you want to talk about Imam al-Hussein, don't tell me about the history of Abu Abdullah. Tell me, what did Abu Abdullah offer humanity as a whole and the creation of Allah? Number one, animal rights. Number two, the second thing he offers humanity today, which the people of Manhattan can do. The people of Manhattan have forgiven what happened on the day of September the 11th. Many of them have said, you know what, we're sad, but we'll let it go. We're not going to generalize. Let me tell them that even Hussein on the 10th of Muharram forgave a man who oppressed his kids, oppressed his children. Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi, commander of the opposition, bled the water from the children of Hussein. And when I talk of children of Hussein to my non-Muslim friends who are watching me now, I'm talking 6-month-old baby. I'm talking 3-year-olds. I'm talking 6-year-olds. What would we do now? Look at the world that we live in. There's no forgiveness between us. Now mosques represented by followers of Ahlul Bayt, this Imam Barga hates that Imam Barga, that Maulana hates that Maulana, this group hates that group. Where did you learn from Hur and Hussein? Didn't Imam al-Hussein forgive that person who blocked the water from his children? In that one moment, that forgiveness wasn't for Islam. It was to teach every human being, give each other a chance. Make 70 excuses for each other. Do you know how many people come to majalis? Sisters don't talk to each other. Brothers don't talk to each other. Uncles and aunts don't talk to each other. In-laws don't talk to each other. Hussein taught on one day, he taught forgiveness. That person blocked the water from my children. I forgave him. Why can't you forgive your family member? He wanted that second humane principle. It's a wonderful principle. It's not Islam, it's humanity. That's Hussein. That was number two. Number three, the third thing Imam al-Hussein stood for was what? That every human being on this earth, wherever they are, the basic necessity of water should be given to everybody. Do you know how many children in Africa need Hussein? Do you know how many children in India need Hussein? We can come out with all of our alams, but how many of us have come out with organizations called Imam al-Hussein Water Foundation? Simple. Imam al-Hussein Water Foundation. I can go to Africa, I open an organization. Philanthropy is the way forward for the followers of Ahlul Bayt. Humanitarian philanthropy, giving away. Imam al-Hussein stood for water as a basic necessity. Do you know, many times I wonder, why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala test Hussein with water? Why? Water, it's a basic necessity. And it was so close yet so far. Because there's many children who water is so close to them but yet so far. And it's as if Imam al-Hussein was to live forever for those children, that if ever those children felt that they were unhappy, thirsty, they'll always know there was a man in Karbala who was thirsty as well. When you take from that water of Hussein, what we should all do now is build an organization. Do you know there are 700 million children with no water? When you drink water, why do you think Ahlul Bayt always say, whenever you drink water, remember the thirst of Hussein? Why do you think Ahlul Bayt said that? Because Ahlul Bayt wanted you to understand that water should never be deprived of anyone. Muslim, non-Muslim, everyone should be given water. That's number three. Number four, the fourth Hussein message for the people of Manhattan. He stood against racism, for in his companions there were people of all races. Look now in America, there are churches of the black community being burnt. The black community, what have they done wrong for them to be beaten, for them to be whipped, for them to be hit? This racial profiling, yes? Imam al-Hussein, you look at him, you look at his companions were from different backgrounds. He didn't say the Arab is above the Persian is above the Turk is above the Indian is above the black. On the contrary, you see his companion John. And I don't just want to mention John as the token black companion, but that John made it clear about Abdullah, I am honored to be in your side, to stand against injustice. How wonderful was that message against racism? Do you know how many caliphs in early Islamic history had a racist worldview? If you were Arab, you got certain amount of money. If you were non-Arab, you wouldn't get certain amount of money. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, when he stood for every oppressed colored person in the world. That if anyone tells you you're not good enough, then remember me at Karbala. My army was a cosmopolitan army. My army was standing for truth and everybody was welcome within that army. That again was another lesson. Another lesson, the importance of interfaith dialogue. Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, did not come and stand for Islam. He came and stood for every Abrahamic faith, every Abrahamic lover. Manhattan has a large Jewish population, has a large Christian population, has a large Muslim population. I was with the chief rabbi only a few days ago. We had a fantastic discussion about the future of Arab, Palestinian, Muslim, Jewish relations. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, all of these will never have dialogue with other religions. Whereas Hussein, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, taught us that a true Muslim sees people as two types, either brothers in faith or equals in humanity. Yes? Our people must recognize when Imam al-Hussein opened the door for the likes of Wahab. Wahab was a Christian, wasn't he? Did Imam al-Hussein turn around and say, no Christians allowed in my army? On the contrary, anyone who loves God, anyone who wants a better world can become a Husseini. Yes? Today we need to make that clear. Hussein is not for the Shia. Hussein is for all of the lovers of humanity and all the lovers of good, and everybody is welcome. And finally, the final message we learn from Hussein is that even if someone from our religion is a terrorist, we will stand up against that terrorist. Was not Yazid claiming to be from Islam? When people keep blaming other countries and religions on what's happening to Islam, I say don't blame them. Sometimes the Muslims are their own worst enemies. Imam al-Hussein taught us one lesson. If there is oppression in this world, if it comes from a Muslim, it does not matter, you speak out against that Muslim. Today, all of the Muslims we unite to speak out against ISIS and the beheadings of ISIS. Al-Qaeda and the beheadings of Al-Qaeda. We speak out against Boko Haram. We speak out against Shabab. We don't want Qasim and others to generalize that all Muslims are the same. The same way Hussein spoke out against the ISIS of his time, Yazid, we speak out against the ISIS of our time. I give you this as one final word. On 9/11, oh people of Manhattan, it wasn't just a plane that was hijacked. A whole religion was hijacked. But we promise you that we will make sure that that religion comes back to the way Hussein spread it. Wassalamu alaikum.